I'm going to hand over to Thelma.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Hi. So I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm always like the quiet one during all these Zoom meetings. So yeah, like James said, my name is Thelma Marques, and I've been a tour guide for a couple of years now, but I did work at the Royal York downtown, so I do have some familiar faces that I used to work with. But yeah, so I know it is St. Patrick's Day, and I am celebrating later today with some green beer and chicken wings. But I'm going to take you into a little bit of my crazy world here as a Portuguese growing up in Canada. So as a Portuguese Canadian, and everyone can hear me, correct? Yeah, everyone's good. Okay. So I'm going to go into my PowerPoint presentation, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the country that I love, that I adore, that I was born in, and give you a little insight into my crazy world growing up as a Portuguese Canadian here in Toronto. So I'm just gonna go into my PowerPoint. And James, did you share screen, or you hit it? Let me see here. Okay, so I think it's shared. Let me go into my PowerPoint here. 1 second here. I don't know if you can, if he's seeing it. Ah, there we go. Okay, so give me 1 second. Let me just, I don't know. Yeah. Okay. And then 1 second here. Let me just turn this on here. Share computer settings. Okay. So can everyone see the screen? Yeah, okay. Everyone's on mute, so I can't. All right. Okay, everyone can see my screen, my PowerPoint? Yes, okay, let's start. All right, so this is a little bit of Portugal. So I just made a little bit of a collage. So this is a little bit of my country. So you have the flag, the different sections, the different parts of Portugal. And then we have the rooster as well, which I'll go into detail a little bit after. And then I just want, oh, okay. Okay. And
don't worry about people coming in, I'll deal with them.
Oh, okay. So I'll just talk a little bit about, Portugal in general, and then I'll talk about me growing up here. Let's see here, so, come on, next screen. There we go. Okay, so Portugal is located, of course, in Europe. So the Portugal population is about 10.2 million people, and about 2 million Portuguese live outside the country. So there's a lot of us immigrants around the world. It is one of the oldest nations in Europe. It came into existence in 1139, and it's barely touched its borders since 1297. So it is considered one of the oldest countries in terms of borders and countries itself in Europe. The Portuguese is ranked the 9th most spoken language in the world. So there's about 252 million Portuguese speakers, and it's official in 9 different countries around the world. And a big part of that is because of Brazil as well. Of course, Brazil has a huge population, and they speak, their official language there is Portuguese. So that helps us with our ranking amongst the most spoken language in the world. We're also big on cork as well. So we produce about half of the world's cork. So 70% of the world's cork exports come from Portugal, and specifically actually my area in Portugal, which I kind of go into after as well. So I'm from the Ribatejo Alentejo region. So I don't know if some of you have been to Portugal, but it's right in the center of Portugal, about 140 kilometers east of Lisbon is where my family currently lives. Most of my family is still there, and my 92-year-old grandmother, bless her, she's still living in our town. And that's where I was born as well. So, and then I wanted to talk a little bit about Portugal in the sense of having its own genre of music. So I'd like to play a little bit for you before I go into me growing up in Portugal, or sorry, growing up in Canada as Portuguese. So Portugal has its own genre of music, and I'm sure, I hope that a lot of you or most of you know fado, right? Fado. It's a form of singing that dates back to the 1820s, and it's performed in some of the restaurants and pubs in the cafes, and it's music about the hard realities of life. So I'm not sure if a lot of you know, but Amalia Rodrigues is one of the most famous fado singers, and she has put Portugal on the map for us, touring the world back in the day and singing. She's already passed, but she's still a legend in Portugal and always will be, as one of our best fado singers. Lisbon is a great place to hear fado. You know, the little cafes, the little bars, excuse me, downtown Lisbon. I absolutely love sitting and listening to the music. It's very soulful as well. And the word that we describe it is saudade. Saudade, which is a longing, a feeling of loss. And that's how I feel about my Portugal, especially now during this COVID time. I know it's hard for everyone, but not being able to go back to Portugal for almost 2 years now, it really hurts, as I'm used to going at least twice a year, almost every year. So it's definitely a word that I like to use, is saudade, which is a longing and feeling of loss. And yeah, so I'm going to play a little bit of Amalia Rodrigues just so you get a sense of what this is, a music, very popular music in Portugal. And if you actually like listen, you probably won't, most of you won't understand the words, but you can still sense a feeling of emotion, like when you listen to her singing. And I'm just going to play a little bit, but just want you to hear a little bit. Even the guitar, the music. Okay, so I'm not going to go too far into it, but you can just get a little taste of the sound, and you can also YouTube it as well. I mean, she's all over the internet. But that type of music is very common, very popular in Portugal. It is a little bit sad, but once you get into that setting, you're in those little cafes and listening to these singers pour out their hearts, essentially. They're basically talking about, you know, it's not necessarily a happy sounding music, but it is like a feeling. So I do enjoy listening to her. And yeah, so that's a big part of our culture as well, is the fado. So next I'm going to, hold on, hold on. Let me see if I can go back to the screen here. I want to go back to, okay. Can everyone like see me now, or you're still seeing the PowerPoint? Are you seeing me? I can't hear you, James, you're on mute. No, still on mute. Okay. So I'll go into the PowerPoint. I just want to talk a little bit.
I can see the PowerPoint. It's showing on the screen. So okay, if you pause share.
Oh, pause share. Okay.
And then we should be able to see you.
Ah, okay. Can you see me? Yep. Okay. I'm not the
you can see her.
You can see me and not the PowerPoint. Yeah. Okay. You can't see me. Okay, you can hear me. You can kind of see me. Yeah. Okay. So I just want to talk about now growing up Portuguese, and then I'll go through my slides again. I know this is going to sound cliche, but if you've all watched, you know, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, that's pretty much my life. In terms of my parents and just growing up Portuguese in Canada. I was born in Portugal. My parents came over on December 28th, 1985. So with me in tow, my parents were very young. They were 20 years old at the time. New kids from a small little town in Portugal, and they decided to immigrate to this huge country. And not knowing the language at all, they didn't speak a word of English. And with me in tow, I was a year and a half when we arrived. And my parents always tell the story of when they arrived, they saw so much snow on December 28th. And it was so cold, they almost turned around. They almost went back to their country. They're like, what is this? You know, just a very cold country, and of course not speaking a word of English. So it was very hard for them. Within that week, they started working in Kensington Market on, we call it Augusta, which is Augusta. So everybody knows it as Augusta and Kensington Market. And back in the day, from what I remember, is it was a very, very popular place for immigrants. So there was a lot of, you know, Portuguese, Italian influence. My parents worked in my mom worked in a bakery on Augusta, and my dad worked in a Portuguese restaurant that unfortunately no longer exists anymore, but they always tell me the stories of when they started working there. So Kensington Market has always been a fun place for me to go visit and just see like where my parents had started arriving into Canada. That was one of their first jobs, was in Kensington Market on Augusta. Growing up Portuguese, there's a lot of funny stories. I mean, my first language was Portuguese. I only spoke Portuguese as my parents only spoke Portuguese to me. So when I did arrive to school, when I got into junior kindergarten, senior kindergarten, I discovered, wow, there's a second language here. So of course, as a kid, you're 4 years old, you pick up English really quickly. So it was always fun coming home and trying to speak English to my parents who didn't really understand what I was saying. And then eventually, yeah, we were always around Portuguese people. In my head, I didn't understand or know that there were other cultures out there because it was just what I was exposed to. I mean, my parents didn't know any better either. I mean, we always were around other Portuguese families, Portuguese friends. Again, it's almost like the movie. It was just surrounded by the Portuguese culture. I also danced in the rancho, which I'll show videos as well, which are our traditional Portuguese folklore. So my parents always made sure that my sister and I remembered our culture, and it was always merged into the Portuguese culture. So we danced at a lot of events. We would travel even to Quebec, to Montreal, to Boston, to New York, to go dance at the other Portuguese culture clubs as well. So we're always connected in that way. My parents also put us in Portuguese school. So not only was I in school during the day, in regular school, but I also had to go to Portuguese school from Monday to Friday from 5 p.m. till 8 p.m. every single day, Monday to Friday. So I did that for a number of years, and I really thank my parents for that, as I can speak and I read and I write in Portuguese as well. So that's always great to have, of course, in Canada as a second language. And we go to Portugal. As a kid, it was just normal to go to Portugal every single summer. I didn't know what a cottage was for years. You know, other people were speaking of cottages. Like, what is that? It was just normal that school would end, and my mom would ship us off to Portugal for the summer. And some of the summers my parents couldn't come, but they would ship us off and make sure that we would spend our summers with my grandparents. So I have a lot of fun memories of spending my summers with my grandma and my grandpa, and just being immersed in the Portuguese culture. And my parents, of course, never forgot to instill that in us. And I think they were just they've always missed their country as well. I think that's why they kind of instilled it in us as well, is just don't forget where you come from. You are Canadian, but you are also Portuguese. So I am blessed to have both citizenships and both passports. And I thank my parents for that. Again, just instilling in the Portuguese in us. But yeah, we were, let's see here, and then some funny stories, like growing up in school, like I didn't know, a lot of the kids were bringing, you know, their Wonder Bread sandwiches, just like the movies, but that's why I always laugh. The Wonder Bread sandwiches and the cream cheese. And I would ask my mom, I want cream cheese tomorrow for my lunch, you know, and she'd be like, well, what is that? What's cream cheese? Show her in the store and like tell her like all the stuff I wanted, because my lunches were sometimes leftover octopus or codfish, which was pretty embarrassing for a little kid to bring to school every day, you know, to have like these traditional dishes that just didn't make sense to the other kids, but some of the immigrant kids understood. But yeah, and then going into like eating and drinking is a very big part of our culture. We don't eat to survive. We eat to just eat. We just eat and drink to socialize and just to be together. So you can imagine, I know this pandemic has been very hard for everyone, but especially us that are not able to just get together, and especially around the holidays, it was very, very tough, especially on my dad, on my stepmother and my mom, because it's not fun, right? We're used to having at least 30 people over. And even at dinner time, when I'm setting the table, you know, my mom or my dad would always say, oh, set an extra plate, blah, blah, blah's coming, set an extra 2 plates, blah, blah, blah's coming. So anybody who was coming in was always welcome. And it's very, and I'll get into that about eating and being in the culture, but yeah, so as I started growing up, I started learning about, of course, different cultures and different languages that were out there, especially I was very sheltered and going to a public a Catholic, mostly Portuguese population school. And then as I got to high school, it was a public high school. So I got to learn about the different cultures and different religions. So I got exposed to that, as we didn't have internet that much back then. I mean, I'm not that young, but I'm not that old. I'm 37. So even back 20 years ago, we didn't have the internet as much as we do now. So it was a learning experience. And then also, yeah, and then being Portuguese, I mean, and then I'm going to show you a little bit, and I'll go back to the PowerPoint. Hang on, resume share. And I'll go back to the PowerPoint. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Let me just put this down here. So just a little bit of, I don't know if you can, hopefully you can see that. So this is a little bit of my growing up here. So on the left side, the Planeta de Chocolate, and there's a picture of me when I was 10 years old. This is in Portuguese school. So I'd write a lot of stories in Portuguese, and I was blessed enough to have the newspaper and the Portuguese newspaper and magazines publish it. So once in a while they'd publish one of my stories. This one is about a chocolate planet. So basically just a creative story for a 10-year-old that they liked. So it was always, published in the Portuguese magazine or papers. And of course I saved that. And then on the right-hand side, that's just a picture of me and my fellow colleagues or students. I did win the entrance scholarship to York University with a Portuguese scholarship. So they did present me with an award at the Portuguese consulate. So that was a very big deal for my parents as well. Made them proud to basically, we had to write an essay about the significance of being Portuguese in Canada. So I was one of the top contenders. So my parents were very proud in that sense. And then I'm just going to go into the next slide here. And I just want to give you a little bit of a sense of my life in terms of what we do when we get together. So this video I'm going to play is just at a cousin's birthday party. And then I just want to go into the next video here. So this one, I can't, hold on. It's being kind of funny, hang on. No, exit. So this one is at one of the many Portuguese that we own. And the picture on the far right, I don't know if you can see the girl dancing there, that's my actual sister. So she's in the traditional costume. I can't for the life of me find one of me in the costume, which is fine. So that was actually brought in from Portugal. We got it tailor made for her. And the picture on the bottom right is in her at the Portugal Day Parade, which we celebrate every June 10th, whatever Saturday or Sunday falls on June 10th. They usually close down all of Dundas Street from Dundas and Lansdowne all the way to Bathurst. So that's one of the parades that I love attending. It's actually, I believe, the second largest parade next to the Santa Claus parade. So all of us come out. There are about 200,000 Portuguese people in here in Toronto and almost 400,000 in Canada in general. So almost half of the population of Portuguese immigrants are living here in Toronto. So you can imagine it's a big celebration. And yes, the t-shirt that I'm wearing does say I'm Portuguese, I can't keep calm. And that's definitely my motto. So the next slide here, I just want to give you a little insight into my dad's house. This was 2 years ago, obviously not now during COVID, but 2 years ago. It's just basically a party that was not at Christmas. It's not Christmas Day. It's a week before Christmas. So they like to do a Christmas party and then have everyone over again for Christmas. So this is just a little bit of an insight of what happens at my house.
What do you say?
That's my dad.
Merry Christmas. Yeah. Ok. Boa comida, boa companhia, bom vinho. Temos aqui farm pork alentejana. Farm pork alentejana. Cabra Velha's coming. I made beef Wellington.
Wellington, I know it's not Portuguese, although I tried it.
There's some mushrooms over there, some potatoes, there's some crumbs down there. Hi, everyone.
And then the next slide here, this was actually a TikTok that I made a couple weeks ago, actually a week ago, and it now has about 13,000 views on TikTok. I find that a lot of Portuguese are following me now on TikTok. Anything Portuguese that I put on, I'm getting followers, which is great for me. But I'll kind of play you just to show you. Tavora is on St. Clair in Caledonia, and it's one of the Portuguese stores that we like to shop at. Everything is imported from Portugal, from the cereal, the coffee, even the fish. They fly in the fish as well. The fish comes in fresh every Tuesday morning from the Azores. And so, yeah, it's all the products of Portuguese, but I'll just play a little bit of it. All right, and then, and then just a quick thing about my dad as well, like he's always inventing something. So this was last year when he brought some stuff from Portugal that he's technically not supposed to, but he planted collard greens and was getting ready for the winter. The winter was coming, so he wanted to protect his collard greens. We do have collard greens on Christmas Eve with our bacalhau, with our codfish, which I'll go into a little bit detail after. Our codfish and our collard greens, our cabbage, Portuguese cabbage, is very, very traditional for us. So he grew it all summer. I was very proud of his cabbage, and he was building a shelter for it because the winter was coming and the frost was going to ruin the cabbage. So he decided to make a little contraption, a little greenhouse over him.
Proteger as couves para o Natal. No Natal ninguém tem couves, mas este ano aqui na Hammer Street há couves mesmo aqui no quintal. Estou a protegê-los por causa do frio. O seguro morrer de velho. É protegê-los já que é para ter couves no Natal.
To protect them, I gotta build it. The cold is coming.
I'm sorry, what?
And I'm
So you're making?
I think it's not.
You're making a house for the collards. Para as couves. Estás a fazer uma barraca para as couves.
Yes.
Para o Natal.
Para não o gelo não queimar as couves.
So the burn collard.
Já mandaste?
Yeah.
And he's just basically saying as well that you need to take pride in what you have, which, you know, it is true. And that Christmas we had delicious collard greens straight from Portugal, from my grandfather's backyard to my dad's backyard in Toronto. Now I'll go a little bit into the food, and everyone's excited about the food. So of course, just a little bit. I mean, we have so many variety types of food, but this is some of my favorites and some of the most popular is the grilled chicken, which is the frango. So there's so many places in Toronto that you can get grilled Portuguese chicken. And when I talk about that, I'll give you a list of restaurants as well. Sorry, James, we don't like Swiss chalet. That's absolutely a no. I know that you said your culture, you guys love Swiss chalet, and I just kind of cringed because my dad said that he would rather, he will not go near Swiss chalet. So that chicken for us, rotisserie at least, is not in our books. It needs to be freshly grilled with some sea salt and a little bit of piri piri, which is our spicy sauce on the side. I also have pictures here of the seafood, right? So seafood is a huge part of our culture. Of course, being right on the ocean, right? We have over 800 kilometers of beachfront. So that's very big in Portugal, is eating all the delicious seafood. We also have cozido at the bottom, which is a traditional boiled meats, different kinds of sausages, meats, and we make that at home a lot as well. Sardinhas. Not everyone likes the sardines. It is a special acquired taste. And I always laugh and I always joke because I'm so happy that I live in a Portuguese neighborhood, because the smell of sardines when you grill in the spring, summer is unbelievable. if I'm coming home from maybe a couple blocks away and I start smelling the sardines, I know that I'm home and that it's finally summertime. So the Portuguese like to get out their grills and start grilling those sardines. But someone for my dad who lives in Burlington, who has all, bless him, Canadian neighbors, which are wonderful people. But when they start smelling those sardines, they're not happy campers, right? They kind of get curious. They kind of look over the fence saying, hey, what are you grilling there? And my dad loves to show off our culture, of course, and give everyone, you know, a taste of our wine and all our traditional food. So it is fun. But sardines is an acquired taste. Not everyone loves them, but I definitely love them. Delicious, grilled with a little bit of sea salt with some olive oil. Beautiful. And then, of course, I put codfish on a separate, you can see it. I put codfish on a whole separate slide. Why? Because codfish is, dried salted cod is super, super important. It's one of our most popular dishes, or fish. So there's 365 recipes of cod, one for each day of the year. And I believe there's actually even more. But legend says 365. I think my mom's made about 400 of them. So I'm just gonna play just the video here in the background. You'll see the different types. I mean, I'm not gonna put 365, but just a little bit of a genre of the different kinds of codfish and different ways of making it. Of course, I have my favorites, and that's one of the recipes that I'm gonna leave you with later today, is one of my favorite codfish recipes. So as you can see on the screen here, it's been produced for at least the last 500 years. I mean, it was the time when the Europeans had the discoveries of the New World. So legend says, you know, the Portuguese were one of the first to come over here to Newfoundland in the Grand Banks and fish for codfish. And salted cod especially is really popular. And of course, you know, we didn't have refrigerators back then, so we would salt the cod and make sure it would preserve for it to last all the way coming back to Portugal. Right, so bacalhau, it's a staple in our Portuguese dishes and culture. Yeah, and then I'll talk a little bit about desserts, and I'll give you a list of some of the bakeries as well that you can get these wonderful desserts. So we have we use a lot of eggs, tons of eggs for everything kind of dessert. Luckily, I kind of like eggs. It's not my favorite, but in desserts, I don't mind eating them. So it's traced back to the country's once vast network of convents and monasteries. So the religious centers, they used to use the egg white. They say that the nuns would use the egg whites to start their laundry, and then they had to come up with uses for the excess yolks. That's what the legend says, and I believe it, because a lot of these recipes here for all these delicious treats here are made with just the yolks. You know, so I believe that they did use the egg whites to start the laundry, which is interesting, and then use the yolks for the desserts. So as you can see, the pastel de nata, of course, I put right on the top there. That's the most popular, most famous custard or dessert known to the Portuguese culture. Everybody loves a pastel de nata. I like them. They're okay. They're not my favorite. I know everyone's gasping. It's not my favorite, but I think it's just because I was just used to it. It's always been in the household. So it's not the first thing I reach for, but it is definitely a staple, and I do love them in Portugal, especially in Lisbon. If you've all been to Lisbon, the pastéis de Belém, they're my favorite as well. The molotov on the bottom there, that's a fluffy cake. That's all egg whites, actually. It's like a meringue, a caramel meringue. The bottom ones, I don't know if you can still see it, but those are ovos moles, which means just like an eggy soft center of a tart, and that's those are famous in Coimbra, which is, or sorry, in Aveiro, which is a city in the north of Portugal, which is known as the Venice of Portugal. So just a beautiful city with all the gondolas. That's what's famous there. And then there's also travesseiros. Travesseiros are literally translated to little pillows. So they're little heavenly pillows. And they're just little fried doughs with egg inside. And that's very famous in Sintra, which is just outside of Lisbon. And then I put palha de branch on the far left. It's not really famous, but it is famous in my city. That's the city I was born in, was Abrantes, Portugal. So I always have to have a nice palha de branch when I go. And basically it's just eggs thinned out and stretched out into like little stringy stuff. I don't know how else to explain it. Palha means hay. So it's like little haystacks, like little egg haystacks. And then I was gonna go into the cod recipe, but I'll do that in a second. Hang on. So I'll go back to, oh, oops. Hold on, sorry. Okay, yeah, I'll go, hi. So I'll go back to just some of the questions about being Portuguese has shaped me as a guide. So I've always respected all walks of life, of course. So being a guide, I love, seeing people from all over the world and different cultures and different languages that are spoken. So I appreciate that. And my work ethics definitely come from my parents, of course. Seeing them work hard and succeed in this country has always been positive influence on me. So I've always wanted to work hard and strive for the best as well. Just seeing them, start from nothing and coming to, that story, oh, I arrived here with $20 in my pocket and I made this all for you. You hear that a lot in the movies and stuff, but it actually is reality. So my parents did start off with literally nothing, coming as little, I would say kids. They came as kids from a small little town in Portugal that, seeing people speak English and like the outside world is only something on TV, right? So for them to be brave enough to come across into Canada, into an unknown, especially coming all the way across the ocean. A lot of immigrants from my area actually immigrated to France and Switzerland and Germany. So we're the only ones who came all the way across to Canada. So, kudos to my parents for doing that and for building the life that they have now. I'm very successful here in Canada. So our favorite holiday, of course, is Christmas and Easter coming up. Easter is such a big holiday for us. I would say the same as Christmas. So Christmas and Easter are equal. Christmas, we more celebrate Christmas Eve than Christmas Day. Christmas Eve, we have a lot of family over as well. Christmas Day is fine, but Christmas Eve is like the biggest event when Jesus was born at midnight, or sorry, at 12 o'clock, we open our gifts and all my cousins are over and it's just crazy loudness. And then also Easter, Good Friday is a big celebration. We usually see the procession down on College with the Italians. So that's one time of year that we do get along with the Italians, is we go see the procession and we all hang out together. And that's just so much fun. It's one of the traditions that I love doing with my mom as well, is going down to see the procession and see the stages of the cross, and just kind of, it's more of a social gathering. We get to see all my mom's friends down there, and then we always go to the Portuguese bakeries and enjoy all the Portuguese treats as well during Easter. And something that you would never want to say to a Portuguese is, oh, Portuguese and Spanish are the same language. No. It definitely is not. And then something that irritates me is when people say, oh, people from Brazil, they speak Spanish. No, they don't. They speak Portuguese. So that's something that you don't want to say to a Portuguese is, oh, you guys are the same. Spanish and Portuguese are the same language, or Brazilians speak Spanish, which is not the case. That's not true at all. The Portuguese here, when they come to Canada, I don't know why, but they have this fascination for Niagara Falls. They absolutely enjoy the falls. I think maybe, I don't know, there's not too many waterfalls, I guess, in Portugal. But when they come here, that's the first thing they want to see and do. And I know that a lot of my even guests, or even when I bring, when family come to visit me, that's the first thing we have to do is go right to Niagara Falls. And they're very fascinated by all the skyscrapers, of course, and the big buildings downtown, as that doesn't exist in Portugal, right? In Europe, in the big skyscrapers, at least not in Lisbon or in Portugal. And then something they dislike, and I'll go back to that, is Swiss chalet. So I'm gonna go back to that. They do not like the Swiss chalet chicken. So sorry, it's not fun. It's not for them, which is fine. And we love our coffee as well. Coffee, but hardly any milk. They only drink espressos. They love espressos, no milk, or else that's not a coffee to them. So they don't understand Tim Hortons. They don't understand the whole concept of milking your coffee with double. We do have lattes in Portugal, of course, but for them, it's just a straight up little coffee. And sometimes with what we call a little cheirinho, which is a little bit of some alcohol in there. Yeah, just a little bit of moonshine. So little restaurants, Chiado. So I'm sure most of you have heard of Chiado on College Street. It is one of our most fine dining Portuguese restaurants. I wouldn't say a lot of Portuguese go there, just because, especially the immigrants here, like we like quantity over quality. So we want to see a full plate. We don't care for decoration. We don't care for fine dining, the little setups on the plates. We really enjoy seeing a full plate. If we have a full plate, we're happy. So I think Chiado, it's nice for guests who are visiting and want a little taste of Portugal. Yeah, Chiado is a great restaurant. But my personal opinion is Churrasqueira Martins. That's one of my favorite restaurants in Toronto, and that's at Rogers and Weston Road. So it is a little further from downtown, but definitely worth the visit. For me, the Portuguese food there, it tastes exactly like I'm in Portugal, which is something that I love and you want to have. Excuse me, and also the atmosphere. It's so busy in there, and the music, just everything, and everyone's so friendly, and it just really feels like I'm taken back to Portugal just for the hour or two that I'm there. So I love Churrasqueira Martins. Santana is a bakery that's actually close to me that James has gone to before. It has the best Portuguese custards, in my opinion, so they're the closest. that I've tasted to Portugal, and I've been to so many bakeries here, Portuguese bakeries here in Canada. We're in Toronto, and Santana's, which is at Dovercourt in Hallam, just close to Dovercourt and Bloor. That's my favorite place ever. And luckily, it's only a few minute walk from my house. But it's a mother and daughter who run the place, and they make their pastries fresh. But I don't know what they do to the Portuguese custards. They're my absolute favorite. Canadian food that the Portuguese enjoy, again, they don't really enjoy a lot, but something that they absolutely love is maple syrup. It's like drugs to them. I don't know what it is. They love maple syrup. So when I go to Portugal, I usually tend to bring back a couple of jars of maple syrup for them to enjoy with their pancakes. And what else? I think that's it. And then what I'll do is I'll show you the recipe. I did a TikTok video as well, and it has quite a few thousand views as well. The TikTok video of my mom making the bacalhau avrage, which is my personal favorite, which is basically shredded cod with olive oil. Of course, we use olive oil and everything as well. Shredded cod, onions, and potatoes. So just show you the video here. So let me just go back to the screen. Hold on. Go back to the screen here. And I'll play you the video of the shredded, or the bacalhau avrage. And I wrote Thelma's favorite because it is my absolute favorite. Out of 365 recipes, this is it for me. And then I've put the ingredients up there as well, but I can always email it as well. So I'll play you the video just so you can see a little bit. Okay. So, let me just exit here. Okay. So basically, yeah. Again, like if I know that James is recording this, so you can go back and look at it. And it's really easy to do, and it's super simple, and just like 5 ingredients. So it's something quick that we make as well. So that's kind of like our fast food. Is bacalhau avrage. It's something easy and quick, and especially when you come home late from work or whatnot, it's something that you can put up together really quick. And then I just got to touch base really quickly on the galo as well. This is the galo of Barcelos. So the galo of Barcelos is a city that's in the north of Portugal. So basically it goes back to the 15th century when there was a pilgrim that was found guilty of a, sorry?
Thelma, we've still got your screen. We can't see you with the cockerel.
Oh, okay, sorry, hang on. Hold on, stop, oh no. Okay, can you see me now? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So the galo of Barcelos. Barcelos is a city in the north of Portugal. It goes back to the 15th century. So this is the symbol of Portugal right here, this beauty. So we have every Portuguese household, and I'll talk about that, has all different kinds of sizes. So it goes back to the 15th century of when there was a pilgrim that was found guilty for a crime that he said he didn't commit. So he was sentenced to a hanging. He was sentenced to death. So to plead his innocence, he had to present himself to the king. The king at the time was sitting there with a grilled Portuguese chicken, delicious, grilled Portuguese chicken, and the king said, well, how are you supposed to prove your innocence? You're definitely guilty. You are sentenced to be hung tomorrow. So he kind of looked at the king and he said, well, if I'm innocent, then that rooster that's grilled on your plate is going to rise up and is going to sing for you. And the king just laughed, and the whole, everybody in the room just laughed. And he started walking away thinking, that's it, my life is going to end. And then all of a sudden the rooster rose and did start singing. So everybody was like, oh my God, this is witchcraft. Everybody was kind of in shock, but he was free. He was free to go. And that just kind of proved his innocence. So basically, So we have this as good fortune in all of our kitchens. So any Portuguese household that you walk into anywhere, actually in Portugal, here in Toronto as well, everybody has the rooster, whether it be a huge one like that. This is a medium size. This one I actually bought at St. Lawrence Market. There's a Portuguese little store there in St. Lawrence that I actually bought this one just because I don't want to carry it from Portugal. It's too heavy. But there's tons of them and you can get massive ones. And then I have a little one too as well. And then I have a keychain, of course. So this is very, it's supposed to give us good fortune, and you can give it as a gift as well to anyone else. Anyone who receives it will receive good fortune. And it's all ceramic and hand painted, and some of them are different sizes, but this is our symbol of Portugal, and you'll always see it in one of our kitchens. So I think that's it. And just to recap, I mean, that's my life is crazy in terms of just the loudness. It's super loud all the time in my house. And a lot of my friends say, you speak so loud. I'm like, I'm sorry. So we're just loud. We love to get together. We love family, friends, and anyone who comes to my house always has to eat. That's the number one rule. And if you leave my house without eating, my mom will be so disappointed. She'll just cry for days. She'll be like, they didn't like our house. They didn't like eating. So that's really important. Everyone has to eat something, at least something, toast or anything when you come to my house. So you're all invited when Corona is over. You can all come over. Maybe I'll do some Portuguese stuff. And we have yummy treats and everything. So I'm hoping that we all can get together one day and I can meet you all in person. And yeah, so you all come over and eat because my mom loves to cook. And that's just something that's huge in our culture, is eating and drinking and just being around family. So you can imagine, again, like I said, during this pandemic, it's been pretty hard having a table of 30 people usually to only 2 of us, right? It's depressing, really. But I mean, this is how it is right now. But yeah, so it's and that's my life, is always the craziness, and I wouldn't trade it for anything else. I love my culture, of course. I love being Portuguese, and I'm very, very proud. And I'm just blessed that I was born there, but I have both countries. I love my Canada as well, of course. And I wouldn't trade it for anything else. I love being Portuguese Canadian, and yes, and that's all I can say. I don't know what else to say. That's my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it, and you got a little bit of a insight to my crazy life here, growing up Portuguese in Toronto. And again, if I ever have kids, that's definitely going to be installed in them as well. They're definitely going to be embarrassed, and they're going to be going to school with codfish as well, and learning the language as well. I think that's one of the first languages I'll teach. And my sister's going to get married next year in Portugal, so we're very excited for that. And she chose to get married in Portugal. She lives here in Toronto, but just having all our family there, and God bless my grandmother who's 92 and still going strong, so we're hoping that we'll all be together again next summer, and that we'll join her in the celebration. And yeah, and that's it. And that's it for me.
Thelma,
that's the presentation.
Thelma, I just wanted to tell you, I sent a little message there on the chat.
Okay.
Your poem, your little poem at the beginning, the ending is brilliant. I just love it. I just love it. It's absolutely fantastic.
The chocolate. Yeah. So for those who didn't understand the poem, basically I wrote.
Can you tell everyone so that they know what it is?
Yeah, definitely.
Just share it with them.
Basically I said, I was just really creative as a kid and loved chocolate, obviously. So basically I wrote about a chocolate planet, and that there was a planet that was made out of chocolate. Everything was chocolate. The clouds were made out of cotton candy. When it rained little sugar pellets. So all the kids were super happy, and when they were playing outside, they didn't have to come home. They would just grab things off the trees, off the sky, because they could just eat all the candy. And I would love, and then I wrote, I would love to live on that planet one day. But then at the end, there was a small problem that all the kids just grew up with no teeth because of all the cavities. They were always eating so much food.
But
so that was the only problem, yeah.
The way you put it together at the end is kind of like the punchline. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, so that was the only downfall about this beautiful chocolate
planet, yeah.
Was the kids always had cavities and no teeth because they just kept eating chocolate all the time. Yeah. So that was my creativity when I was 10 years old. About a chocolate. But you know what? It got me into the Portuguese newspaper, so that was pretty fun. And again, yeah, just being always involved in the Portuguese community, and even now today I'm still part of the Associação Cultural do Minho, which is it's not my province, but a lot of, like I said, a lot of people from my province did not immigrate here to Toronto. So I don't have that big club from my province, but it doesn't matter. I mean, Portugal is Portugal. There's different provinces. So I am part of the Minho, which is the province up north. And that's the costumes that you saw us dancing in. That's the club that I'm part of. And so I grew up with that and always going to the festival. So again, right now, I mean, it is kind of depressing. I know for everyone with this lockdown and everything. So just used to always going out and always going to these festivals and being part of it. I mean, part of the club has always kept me going. And that was just my typical Friday nights. Friday nights is always going to the club and to practice our routine dancing, right, in the club. And I actually enjoyed it. I mean, my parents wouldn't force me to do anything that I didn't like. So it was always something that we did and that we enjoyed. If we didn't like something, you know, we'd tell our parents, listen, I don't like being part of this, or I don't like this, but we absolutely loved it. And it gave us field trips as well. So it always gave us an excuse to go to Montreal, Boston, New York, and go dance with our other Portuguese people. So it was always fun. That was always a norm to me. And going to Portugal every summer too, you know. So I mean, I'm blessed in that sense that I got to go to Portugal every single year and experience and have fun with my family. My cousins are all there, and they keep nagging me to go over. I'm like, listen, we're in a pandemic right now. What's wrong with you? I can't go anywhere right now. But definitely next year. Yeah. So it's fun. It's great.
So I'd